Okay, so today's video, we're going to be talking about the GoPro Hero 7, and is it the actual gimbal killer that GoPro is claiming it to be? Now, I've been using my Garmin Ultra Verb 30 and the Evo SS Gimbal for about 8 months now, and the video quality I get from it is great, the sound quality is great, the stabilization is amazing, and actually it's almost too amazing because sometimes it makes the trail and the chunk and the bump and the jumps look a little too smooth, which is why we're testing out the GoPro 7, because the GoPro 7, the black, the image stabilization, it's all electronic. There's no gimbal attached to it or anything like that. So we're going to see how the two compare to each other and go from there. So the actual footage in this video is separated into 3 different parts. The first part is a side-by-side comparison of the Garmin and the GoPro at Aliso Viejo on Rocket Trail. Now that part of the video was before the audio update, or before I downloaded the audio update to the GoPro. So the sound is quite more muffled than it is after the update. So that's the first, part of the comparison.
Still on. All right. See if I can make it up the rock. Oh, I didn't see a speed. That's all right.
So the rest of the comparison footage is shot at Sky Park at Santa's Village. I chose that spot, because the sections are good, the trails are good, there's a lot of jumps, there's a lot of, switchbacks, there's a lot of cross-country stuff there, and you're going in and out of the sunlight, or from shade to bright light, back into shade, stuff like that. And the first part is just a video of the GoPro on my chest at 4K, 30 frames per second, without the wind slayer on. Now the wind slayer on it's going to make a big difference, and you will hear the difference later in the video as well.
Going down sleigh ride. Got the GoPro on. I'm only doing 4K 30. That way it's comparable to the Garmin's video. This first run, I've just got the stereo sound on. No wind slayer.
And now the third part of the footage is going to be a side-by-side again of the Garmin on the left, the GoPro on the right, going down sleigh ride at Sky Park and also going down Arrow. And sleigh ride is kind of like a fun kind of pump track kind of, trail. There's some tabletops there, but it's mainly a speed trail. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great warm-up as far as that goes. The other part, Arrow, has a lot more tabletop jumps and is also a really great trail as well. But you'll see the side-by-side comparison. All of the video that I shoot, the cameras are always strapped on my chest, and the Garmin actually has some little windscreen stuff on it, so that's why you don't hear any sound, windscreen or wind noise on the Garmin. And in the third part of this video that we're talking about now, I actually put the wind slayer on the GoPro. It's a little foam thing and it covers the entire camera, and it basically cuts out all of the wind noise and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. My first one on Arrow, I got blown all over. Super slow.
The warm-up trail. Got the Garmin. Going through sleigh ride, just a little warm-up. Ooh, a little sketchy with those leaves.
Another reason to possibly switch to the GoPro Hero 7 Black is that the camera itself is waterproof. Now, the Garmin and, say, GoPro 3s and 4s, you could put a case on those and they would be waterproof. But the problem with using a waterproof case is that once you get into the water or it's hot, they're going to start to fog up. Then you have to use fog inserts, and that's an extra expense. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So that's not, you know, the GoPro 7, boom, waterproof. Garmin by itself, not waterproof. So the next thing we have to consider is batteries. Now, if I choose to use the GoPro, the only batteries I have to bring with me are actual GoPro batteries. Whereas if I use the Garmin and the Evo setup, now I have batteries for the Garmin and batteries for the gimbal itself. So 2 sets of batteries, they start to add up, you know, weight-wise, having to make sure everything's charged before I leave home, stuff like that. And now the last thing, one of the last things we're going to talk about, for the GoPro, it has more shooting modes. It goes all the way up to 4K to the 60 frames per second, and then all of the other stuff, you know, 4K 30, 4K 24. Then you can switch down to 2K, and it'll go up to like 120, slow motion, all kinds of stuff like that. It also has a hyperlapse, the hyper smooth, all kinds of extra shooting functions that the Garmin don't have. So that's another reason to possibly switch to the GoPro. So the 3 things we're going to be looking at when comparing the 2 cameras is the picture quality, the sound quality, and the smoothness of the video. Now, as far as the sound goes, the sound on the Garmin is amazing because it's better than the GoPro 7 is because obviously it's not waterproof. So where those microphone sensors are, they don't have to have a membrane on them to keep them waterproof. So they're catching all of the sound. And the sound on like the GoPro 4 and the Garmin is amazing. Now, saying that, the sound on the GoPro Hero 7 Black is pretty good, especially after the audio update. If you go back in the video, I have part of the video was before the audio update, and then most of the video was after the audio update. The sound is pretty good on the GoPro, and it being waterproof, I'll take. So let's say the Garmin is a 10, I'll say the GoPro is about a 7. So picture quality in video. I think I don't do a lot of post-production. I don't go into all of these extra, suites and change colors. I don't have the time for that. I want to shoot it. I want to chop it up and edit it. I want to talk to you guys and stick it out there on YouTube. I have a full-time job. I have a family. I've got all kinds of stuff to do. I don't have all day to edit and color change, all this kind of stuff. So just right out of the camera itself, the GoPro color is amazing. And I know that GoPro adds all of these, filters and stuff to it, but I don't have to worry about it because GoPro's already done it. Whereas if you look at the Garmin footage, yeah, the video is great, but the colors are really flat, and I would have to spend more time color changing and color correcting and all that stuff, and I don't want to do that. So video and color, GoPro is a winner, definitely. The third thing you want to talk about, obviously, is how smooth is the video. Is the hyper smooth stabilization on the GoPro 7 Black just as good, or if not better, than the Evo gimbal? Now, as far as I'm concerned, and I've watched a bunch of other people's opinions on it and their videos on YouTube and stuff like this, the Evo gimbal with the Garmin, the video quality is great, and what's really good is once you set your camera angle, it stays there the whole time. So you have your bars and you have the trail, and the camera stays there, and that's really good. The only problem is, like, when you go to turn, the gimbal is slow to turn. So if you're doing like a lot of switchbacks or berms, stuff like that, the video kind of the gimbal kind of lags behind. Whereas on the GoPro, obviously it's strapped to your chest or to your helmet or on top or whatever. It's going to turn wherever your body's turning, and it's going to be much quicker. On top of that, because the GoPro is not attached to a gimbal, right? It's got the electronic stabilization, hyper smooth stuff in it. It's going to be a little bit more realistic, where it's going to show a little bit more bounce and jump when you're going down the trail, and it almost makes it a little bit more realistic. And you kind of feel it. Like now, back when there was no stabilization in the GoPros, you can't watch those videos because the picture's jumping all over the place, and it makes you car sick. Whereas now with the 7 Black, it's smoothed it out just enough to where you can still feel it. You can still kind of feel it, what the rider, the POV, is feeling, compared to the gimbal, which would just smooth as butter. And smooth as butter is great, but I kind of like the GoPro 7 better. So definitely another win for the GoPro. One more thing, talking about the picture quality, you're going to see whenever you go through, this is both cameras and pretty much most action cameras that I've ever used, is when you go through a dark spot and then there's a bright spot on the trail up ahead, the trail, because it's reflecting more sunlight, obviously, there's hot spots and it gets super bright. Both cameras have a problem. It takes a couple seconds for them, not a couple seconds, but it takes like a second for them to, when you come out of the shade, to tone down the brightness of the trail in front of you when it's, direct sunlight. So that's neither, win or loss for either camera. Both cameras do it. So quick recap, GoPro 7 Black, it's waterproof. I got to carry less batteries, and the batteries are relatively cheap. They're like 15, 20 bucks a pop, which is really good, especially for name brand batteries. More shooting modes, the 4K 60, it's got the hyper smooth, it's got the hyper lapse, all built in, stuff like that. Another great thing about it is that it actually has an outer lens cover. Obviously, the square part of the camera housing, that part can actually twist off, and you can replace those. So if you do scratch up your lens really bad and not crack the actual internal lens, you can just buy a new one of those and slap it right on and no problems. Whereas like a GoPro, like a 3 or a 4, I think you can take the whole lens out and replace it. But on my Garmin, you can't do that. So once that lens got scratched, you know, my video quality went down after that. So another win for the GoPro. So if you haven't figured it out by now, it's pretty obvious that I'm going to be keeping the GoPro Hero 7 Black, and I'm going to be selling my Garmin, and I'm going to be selling my gimbal. I actually already have the gimbal up for sale, and yeah, I'm keeping the 7 Black. It's just, it offers me a lot more. It's much more versatile. It's much, like I said, with the change in the lenses, I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. It's tiny, it's small, fits in my pocket. I could take it anywhere. I can do the hyperlapses walking down the trail at the beach, all kinds of stuff. Whereas, you know, I'm not going to carry the gimbal in my pocket, obviously, because it's pretty, you know, it's not big, but it's not going to fit in my pocket like a GoPro 7. So sticking with the GoPro Hero 7 Black, I hope this video was helpful, and thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for watching my video. Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and a like down below. Something else you can do to help me out would be to share, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you like what you've seen here today. Please click on one of these boxes up in the corners here. One will take you to my rides playlist, the other one will take you to a recent video, and always you can click on the logo in the center, the Urban Outdoorsman SoCal logo, to subscribe. Thanks a lot.